Welcome to A Recipe Reborn, featuring your favorite foods from Final Fantasy XIV. Hello, my name is Lemon Drop, and I recreate dishes by combining real-life culinary inspiration with the in-game recipe, description, and thumbnail. If you're into 14 and food, please subscribe and click the bell for a new episode every Tuesday. Today I am making baked onion soup, otherwise known as French onion soup, or soupe à l'oignon. I've been bringing home leftover onions from culinary school over the past few weeks, and they're starting to pile up. So I thought, what would I do with all these onions? Caramelized onions are a great option, and since it's fall, why not make a soup? Well, you guys know me by now. I don't particularly enjoy sweet food, and therefore I don't really like onion soup. We will see if this changes my mind. I noticed this recipe contains knight's bread, which I thought would be fun to make and learn what the Knights of Ishgard were eating to keep themselves fueled for the Dragonsong War. It's a rye bread with honey and basil. Doesn't that sound great? Starting with the bread, I'm activating the yeast in some warm water and honey. Next, I'm adding the remaining wet ingredients to combine before adding the dry ones. Dry basil would probably work better here since the baking time is a bit long for fresh basil, but that's what I have, so that's what I'm using. Next is 3 kinds of flour. I don't really know how to improvise baking, so this part is based on a Martha Stewart recipe, and I trust she knows what she's doing. Oops, I almost forgot the salt. As always, times, temperatures, and measurements are in the description. This goes in a greased bowl to rise for an hour. The next step is to cut the dough into pieces, and I always use a scale to make sure the pieces come out evenly. Here I'm forming the pieces into balls before covering them and letting them proof for an hour. The last step before baking is to score an X in the top of each dough ball. Don't go too deep, otherwise the rolls expand too much and the shape turns out weird. Alright, that's it for the knight's bread. Let's move on to the onions. This requires a lot of onions, way more than you think, but this is pretty simple to make if you survive the onion gas crying session. The sliced onions go in a large pot with some butter and salt and just cook and stir them until they become deep golden brown. It takes some time, so be patient. Now that they look like this, I can start making the soup. I'm adding wine and a few aromatics. Some recipes say to use brandy, wine, sherry, vermouth, and I don't know about you, but I don't keep a whole bar just for cooking. Here is the chicken stock from the Popotos au gratin recipe. Check out the link above if you want to see how I made it. After simmering for about 15 minutes, I'm fishing out my leaves and then tasting for seasoning. It is quite sweet. So I bought some nice French cheese for this episode, the real deal. Check out that price tag. It is Comté, also known as Gruyère de Comté, and it can be substituted with Swiss Gruyère or just Swiss cheese. I've got a couple of slices of my knight's bread, which I'm topping with the cheese. And then this goes under the broiler for about 5 minutes to melt the cheese. Lastly, I'm sprinkling over some chives, and that's it. I think I did a pretty good job of matching the thumbnail while still balancing the spirit of both the in-game recipe and the real-life recipes. Does this change my mind about onion soup? Not really. It is good with the bread and cheese, but I actually think this would be better with a sourdough bread so the acidic flavor can balance the sweet onions. I'm struggling a bit with the idea of making food that I don't like, but it does bring up a good point. Food is subjective, and while there may be optimal ways of executing certain techniques, what tastes good varies from person to person. For example, my best friend loves onion soup, and I don't. Does that mean the soup is bad? No, because our taste is subjective. For the full recipe and instructions, please check out the link to my website in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week for another recipe and another episode.